Hey, TechLead here, and welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to talk about the top signs of an inexperienced programmer. It is coffee time. We are having a Coca-Cola. A lot of people like to hate on Coca-Cola, but it's not so bad. Nothing wrong with that. This video is sponsored by Coca-Cola. For fun times, have a Coca-Cola is what I would not say because I am not sponsored by Coca-Cola. This video, by the way, is sponsored by audibletrial.com/techlead. Check them out for your free audiobook. I use it all the time. I've been listening to audiobooks on my commute, saving a lot of time. Currently, I'm listening to 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. That's a great book, lots of lessons from experienced people. They've got tons of audiobooks available, whatever you're interested in reading. Remember that Audible is actually owned by Amazon, so their selection is massive. Check them out, get your free audiobook, audibletrial.com/techlead. You know, it's a funny thing that all new engineers exhibit certain traits. And just by looking at the way they act, the patterns that they go about in their daily routines, the code that they output, you can pretty much tell who's an experienced engineer and who's new. And these new engineers all go through the same things, and it takes them sometimes months, sometimes years to outgrow their behaviors to turn pro, so to speak. Every new engineer has to go through this training in every single company, and it's just tiresome. These same lessons need to be repeated over and over again. I thought I would just give you guys the basic tips such that when you get started, or if you're already working, then you're going to be well on your way and people aren't going to have to give you the same lessons over and over again. You know, it's funny that when you start working at, say, a company like Google, they like to haze you in your first code reviews. They will leave you hundreds, if not millions of comments in your first diff output that you're trying to commit. And people would just say, hey, this is wrong, this line of code is wrong, this line of code is bad. There would be so many pedantic comments that many people just end up quitting the next day. And that's the funny thing a lot of people don't know is that of the people who get into, say, Google as an engineer, about half quit before they even submit their first line of code. So let's get into it. The first tip, and this has been repeated over and over again, is keep your diff sizes small. Keep your commits small. Chances are when you first start, you're going to be assigned a starter project that's going to require a sizable chunk of code to complete some feature. And the key to note here is this isn't so much about completing the feature. It's probably a useless feature that nobody even cares about. What people really want to see you do is start learning the coding practices, the development process in which you get a code submitted. And this really involves the process in which you break down the project into bite-sized chunks and you submit targeted small pieces of code one at a time instead of submitting the whole thing. And chances are when you submit this whole piece of code for a code review and it's thousands of lines of code, people are just going to look at it and say, hey, yeah, this one line here, this one way that you did this was entirely wrong and the whole thing needs to be redone. When you get started, there's a high chance you're going to fundamentally get some pattern, some design or architecture of your program wrong. It's going to change the whole way that the thing's going to be written. So if you submit small size diffs incrementally, people can help make sure that you're on the right track, you're not wasting too much time. And it also makes it easier to land your diffs because it's simply easier to get approval on small size chunks of code that are very targeted instead of a whole menagerie of random diffs. Many times I will actually write my code in an editor that shows line by line diffs of what changes I'm making, like Visual Studio Code or Atom will show this, and this helps ensure that you're not just changing random lines of text that don't need to be changed. Almost every company I go to, they beat this one lesson about having small diffs over and over to new engineers. If you go into the company already knowing this, you're going to be set. Now, the second sign of a new and experienced developer is just crazy tangled code, crazy logic all over the place, huge functions, tons of if statements all over the place, random helper methods everywhere, premature optimization, over-engineered garbage code. And so, contrary to what you might imagine, bad code is not simply code that has a ton of bugs, doesn't compile, doesn't work. A decent engineer will at least be able to get their code to compile, to work, and is even going to run and function okay. But the way the logic is set up, the way the code is written is going to look completely horrible. It's going to look like garbage code, tangled, totally messy, complex stuff. And it's pretty much going to be a complete pain to read. Many times I would just get a headache after reading some beginner's code, and then I have to get up and get a coffee break. My recommendation here is to write a design doc. Write a document that describes what you're going to build, what the feature requirements are, how you're going to set things up, which functions you're going to need, which classes, what data structures you might need, and then just go build those out, and that should help you organize your ideas. It's very obvious actually when I see code that was written without a design doc because there's just repeated duplicate code, logic, if statements all over the place. It somehow manages to work. I mean, the code's going to work fine, but it's just going to look like pretty crazy code. I'm probably going to go ahead and approve your code anyway, but I know it's going to cause you a lot of hell later on as you're going to become the one maintaining this code throughout your career, and it's just going to slow you down through the rest of your job over the months as you're going to have to start adding features to this code. You're going to have to start reading it, and there's just going to be bugs introduced every single time you try to modify the code. You're going to have to make changes in a whole bunch of different areas. The logic's going to be pretty loopy. Write a design doc, save yourself some time. It's going to make you look a little bit better too. The third trait of a new inexperienced developer is low effectiveness. Now don't get me wrong, everyone's working hard, everyone's trying to prove themselves. They know they're new, they're trying to do things, but they're just not effective, and they end up wasting tons of time. I know a guy who was working on this feature for months, and it was a pretty complicated UI. In fact, the UI was essentially impossible to do. The UI designers just came up with it, and he started trying to work on it and coming up with totally convoluted code. None of it was really done well. It was very hacky stuff, and I think he just wasn't having his eye on the goal. He was just obsessed with maybe doing a bunch of groundwork. This project never launched, by the way. And later on, I came up with a better solution for it. I pushed back on the UI designers a little bit and said, hey, if we do it this way, it's going to be much easier to implement. It's going to look good too. And so I would say, don't just code for coding's sake. Look at the forest, not the trees. Keep your eye on the vision, the goal that you're trying to make happen, and make sure that your code at least ships. And if you don't foresee your code shipping, try to clear the roadblocks for that. Make sure that you can get your impact in where you can. You also want to keep an eye on your APM, actions per minute. I know a lot of engineers, they go in and they spend the whole day surfing Reddit, checking Facebook, social media, blogs, Twitter, surfing news, and I look at these new engineer screen. Half the time they're watching a YouTube video of someone playing the game. Maybe they're the one playing the game. Maybe they're even broadcasting that game. And that's all great. People can work like that. They can work on their own time if they like. And I used to sort of do this too. I would go into work and I would have one window. Maybe I'd do some online shopping, whatever it is I want to do. But the thing is, when you play a game like StarCraft, you'll notice that whoever has the highest APM usually wins the match in the StarCraft game. Not always, but usually. It really goes a long way. So that's really the same thing for developers as well. If you're spending any available time you have on the job, for instance, just imagine how much more productive you might be able to be. You could get probably a lot more code submitted, read a lot of code, learn about the code base, come up with ideas. You could get a whole bunch done. And I would say that one flaw of new engineers is sometimes I'll take a look at their code output after a whole week, and they may have submitted like 1 or 2 pieces of code that whole week. And just sort of wonder, how is it possible that somebody could spend 5 days at a job and submit only 2 pieces of code, or even 1 piece of code, or none, in the whole week? And then I remember, oh yeah, that's right. They were probably playing games that whole time. Maybe they were doing online shopping. Who knows? And it's kind of no wonder that for a lot of these people, their productivity is just very low. My recommendation is try to get at least 1 piece of code submitted per day. That'll keep you on track. Make that just a personal goal for yourself. That'll keep you going. The fourth sign of an inexperienced engineer is they usually have a lot of pride, a lot of ego, a lot of arrogance. And this is something that you see out of a lot of computer science students coming out of college, for instance. Their arrogance is just incredible. The worst is when I'm reviewing a new engineer's code and I decide to leave like say 100 comments. And then the engineer comes by my desk and personally asks me about each comment and tries to justify why he's right about each one. And then I have to get in a little argument about each one with him. And he's trying to defend himself and laughing at other people who may be more stupid than him, trying to sound cool, trying to sound smart. It's like, look, I don't care if you think you're cool. I don't care if you think I think you're cool. If you want me to say you're cool, fine, you're cool. I'm cool. We're all cool. Everybody's cool. I'm just cooler than you, okay? So the thing about arrogance is it has a lot of other effects as well. For example, it causes engineers to over-engineer their code to make it look really smart and clever. Keep it simple. Also, I would recommend that you swallow your pride and go ask for questions, ask for help when you need it. It can save you a ton of time. This kind of goes back to being ineffective. A lot of new engineers just want to tackle everything on their own. They spend a lot of time doing things on their own. A week or 2 later, they surface again with a bunch of garbage code that they've written. And then I have to say this whole thing was wrong. This whole thing was just no good. I wish they would have just asked an experienced developer like myself what I would have approved, and that could have saved everyone a lot of time. My last and final tip, the sign of an inexperienced engineer, is somebody who does not identify and respect the tech lead. That's me. Make sure that you know who the tech lead is. I'm not talking about your manager. I'm not talking about your boss. You may already have a tech lead at your company. That may not be the tech lead. That person could be ex-Microsoft, for example. I'm ex-Google. Okay? Ex-Google tech lead. You want to make sure you know who the tech lead is. Now I have a story for you. One time there was this engineer. He did not respect the tech lead. He dared not to. And let me just tell you what happened to him, because this is going to be a good lesson for all of you. He started proposing tons of random code for his project, no design doc, huge diffs, very complicated logic, and I pushed back on and said, yeah, this isn't going to work. He did not respect my comments and kept pushing forward with his code. He kept proposing tons of code, disappeared, came back 2 weeks later with a bunch more additional code, didn't listen to a single comment that I suggested for him. And I blocked every single code that he tried to put in. That's right, I would block his code. I would just spend all my time writing millions of comments, and he would have to write millions of replies back. Eventually, we started just writing essays on these diffs. We stopped coding, really. His effectiveness, his code output got dropped to 0. You know what happened to him? He got fired. That's right. So that's one lesson for you if you don't respect the tech lead. I would recommend, if I were you, to actually be nice to the tech lead. Do whatever you can for him. You know, bring him lunch, bring him tea. One little trick you can do is, instead of having you submit code, come up with a diff patch, mail it to the tech lead, and then the tech lead will patch your diff in and then submit that for you. And that way the tech lead will get credit for the diffs. It just helps increase the number of diffs that the tech lead is putting out. What you can also do is, when you write design documents, put the tech lead's name on it. Even if I had no part in the design doc or presentation or email or post or whatever it is that you're writing, just put my name there in the authors, the credits line. That would be great. I would appreciate that. That helps me get a little bit more credit, a little bit more awareness for people like me who are here to take credit for your work. Buy me stuff, give me things, give me money, any of that, I'll take it. Respect the tech lead. That'll do it for me. Feel free to share your top signs of junior engineers in the comments below. If you liked the video, give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.